Hello, I'm KHOU meteorologist Chris Ramirez, and I know you're probably stepping outside and you're seeing that it's sunny, the weather conditions have calmed down, but let's take a look at our timeline that we've been showing you for the past 24 to 48 hours. We started off this morning with storms approaching our western counties by 2 to 3 a.m. We had those widespread storms that had winds up to 60 to 65 mile an hour wind gusts. But also look at what we had here. We had a break in storm activity between the hours of 10 a.m. through 3 p.m. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing that break in storm activity. However, like I said, the reason why we're coming on right now is that we're not out of the woods yet. We still could see some additional storms flare up from Houston to the coast later on this evening. So you make sure to still want to cautiously plan your evening here across Houston pretty carefully, as we very well could see more of those storms flare up later on today. So looking at radar right now, you're really just not seeing much in terms of what's happening across Houston. There is some isolated showers moving in across northern Harris County, even portions across the coastal areas. It's the sunshine that we're seeing right now. That really is going to fuel some of those storms later on this afternoon. Excuse me. So as we look at four areas towards the west, we still have some storm activity out near San Antonio, and these storms are packing a little bit of a punch. You have a little bit of an isolated cell here that's moving just to the east of the I-35 corridor, and so that very well could become a bit stronger when they continue to move off towards the west. So that's what we're really gonna have to really keep an eye on for this afternoon. I think it's still going to be safe to say to still continue to have those weather alerts on your phone later today, because even though it seems sunny and things have calmed down, our Futurecast model is really just indicating that we could see additional rounds of storms at least through starting around 3 to 4 p.m. and then lasting at least through 9 p.m. So I'm showing you our Futurecast model right now here across the Houston area. So as we progress this through around 2:30, 3 o'clock, that sunshine that you're seeing outside, it's going to cause us to warm up significantly this afternoon. And so with that being said, that is going to cause a few more of those storms to be in the picture at least by 2 to 3 p.m. And then eventually we do have an additional round of storms that it's going to be moving through between 7:30 and 8 o'clock this evening. And this is when we could see another round of severe weather here across the Houston area. And so keep that in mind as well, that additional storms are expected later on tonight. The bulk of those storms are likely to be moving through the Houston area by 9 o'clock tonight, and then eventually clearing of the area and then moving in towards the coast around 11:30 to 12 a.m. That's our second round of storms that we're expecting to see. So you're walking outside and you're seeing the clear skies and the calm conditions, and you may think that we're probably out of the woods, but just keep in mind we're coming on during our midday to just keep you aware and ahead of the storms that we could see later on this afternoon. Looking at the skies right now, it's looking pretty gorgeous out there across the Houston area. But if you are having those evening plans, just also keep in mind that we could see additional rounds of storms. I'm going to go ahead and take you through the forecast process. We have two short-term weather models that we like to use here across when it comes to the forecast. And so when we look at the radar right now, we have a little bit of storm activity out towards West Texas. I'm not showing you the forecast models. I'm still looking at radar. I will show you that shortly. But it's the fact that we still have a little bit of instability out towards the west of the Houston area, where you see just north of San Antonio, even along the north of the highway, the I-20 corridor. That's when we could start seeing those wraparound storms start sweeping closer in towards the city of Houston later on this afternoon. And so that's what we're anticipating later on today. Now I'm going to actually get into those models that I was just talking to you about a few minutes ago. So this is showing you our in-house graph model. This is a model that we use here at KHOU when it comes to talking about the short-term weather parameters. So when it comes to talking about the forecast between 15 to 18 hours out. This model is showing storms flaring up by 3 p.m. eventually still remaining widespread and continuing to move across the area, and at least until late as 6-7 p.m. This is really continuing to still bring another bulk of that storm activity by 9 and 10 p.m. And so we are comparing this model to our HRRR model. So we're only talking about two models here, two short-term weather models. And so when we look at our other short-term weather model, which is the HRRR model, they don't really have those storms flaring up around the 3 p.m. hour. We could still see some isolated cells here and there across the area, which is what we're seeing right now. But what it is in agreement, what both models are showing, and I know I'm getting a little bit terminal in terms of the technology and the model forecast, but it's a little bit tricky in terms of what to expect later on this evening. So we're going to show you both of these models of what they're showing. What they are in agreement with is that we're going to see that bulk of that storm activity arriving into the Houston area between 9 and 10 p.m. And it's this bulk of storms that could have that severe component once again as we head into later this evening. So between 10, 11 o'clock, likely to see another round of that storm activity, as we are already going to be warm from all the daytime heating that we we're seeing right now. So usually when we have days like today where the atmosphere is unstable, I know that the atmosphere has been worked over by the storms that happened earlier this morning, but we're getting sunshine outside. That sunshine, when you have an unstable atmosphere, really does a good job at fueling storm activity during the afternoon hours. So our second model is showing another round of storms like the other model I was showing, moving through between 10 and 12 or 10 to 11 o'clock, eventually by the midnight hour, nearing the coastal areas across Galveston, even through Freeport. It's that window of opportunity between the hours of 7 to 8 o'clock, but to 10 p.m. is when we could see that other round of bulky storms like we saw earlier this morning. So if you have those evening plans, you might want to reconsider, and you might want to just make sure you have 2 or more ways to receive weather alerts. If you have any dinner plans or any late evening plans, I would just make sure that they're not too far from where you live, because you don't want to be stranded out across the Houston area in the late hours during night, when roads could potentially once again become impacted by some heavy rainfall later on today. So if you are listening to me right now and watching us on KHOU 11 Plus, as well as on the KHOU 11 app, we are talking about another round of storms that could arrive later on this evening. And what we're looking at is that one of our model, which is the HRRR model, is showing more of those storms arriving between 9:30 to 10 p.m. as well as moving through the Houston area at least by 10 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and switch the models. The first one that we're looking at, 2 weather models that we're showing. This is basically an agreement that 9:30, 10 o'clock, maybe starting as early as 8 o'clock this evening is when you're going to start seeing that secondary round of storms. And so the difference, again, like what we've been discussing, is that our first model, the graph model, is showing storms to be flaring at between 3 and 4 p.m. And so I'm going to go ahead and incline to be closer towards the HRRR model because of what we're looking at radar right now. So when we compare what's happening across radar, and this is bringing you into the forecasting process and what we usually go through here across each and every day here in the KHOU 11 Weather Center, is that what radar is looking like right now is really just showing those isolated showers that we are seeing across the area currently right now. And this is what's happening. You know, you have some of these isolated downpours that are just to the west and around the Brenham area. You have Montgomery, even Cleveland Spring, with isolated showers moving through the northern areas. And so it's these little cells that could start becoming stronger as they continue pushing in towards Houston, especially as they move towards Columbus. And so what you're seeing right now across the I-10 corridor, even closer to San Antonio, is that you're able to see, as it's warming up in that region as well, you're able to see those storms becoming a little bit stronger. You're seeing some lightning with those storms, with some heavy rain with that, and those are moving directly to the east towards Houston. And that's what we have to really keep an eye on with these storms as we warm up throughout the day. That very well could bring more storm activity through the afternoon. And so I know you're probably thinking that we're getting this break and that the weather storms lasted only for a few minutes, but it's what we've been forecasting for the past 2 to 3 days, is that we're going to get this big break in storm activity, a big lull in storm activity between now and at least between about 4 p.m. And this is what we've been showing you. Now we're in that break right here across the city of Houston. It's sunny. You might want to go to the mall. You might want to go to thinking that you're going to have it clear as day until the afternoon hours, but we cannot really keep our eyes and just ignore the fact that we do have additional storms that will be moving in from the west that could impact Houston into the coast later on today. So hopefully you're able to understand why we're coming on right now, even though it is sunny outside here across the city of Houston. And so looking at radar, we're comparing what radar is looking like to the model that we're using. We are looking at these isolated downpours that are to the west, and they are not showing any lightning, but they are becoming a little bit juicy, especially out in Brenham and in the Columbus area. And so as we look at what's going on with our HRRR model, that's sort of what's similar to what we're looking at right now. That's really kind of, I'm more inclined to lean towards the HRRR model as we go into the afternoon. But what we are seeing in the agreement is that we are very well expecting another round of those storms to move through between the hours of 8 and 9 p.m. and that very well could impact all of our roadways here across Houston. And these storms could have additional 60-mile-an-hour winds, maybe an isolated tornado, as well as the possibility for some of those gusty winds like we saw earlier this morning. So that's kind of giving you this short-term forecast process of what we're expecting to see here for the next 24 hours. And so it's the reason why the National Weather Service has issued the flood watch, and they are continuing to issue this flood watch for all of Southeast Texas. They are not allowing this to expire. This is going to be in effect until 4 a.m. Sunday. 4 a.m. Sunday is when this is going to continue to be in place here across the Houston area. And like I said, you're going outside, you see the sunshine. However, National Weather Service has not expired this flood watch for our area, and that's because they are also anticipating the secondary round of storms that could move through later on today. So that's what we're talking about, and that's what we're expecting to see, is that we're in this break, but we will have another round of storms likely between starting around 3 to 4 p.m. I think that 3 to 5 p.m. time frame is a little uncertain, but what we are more confident in is what's going to be happening around the 9 to 10 p.m. forecast. So those storms that are going to be moving through between 3 and 4 p.m., I think that those are a little bit uncertain. I know that I showed you that we could start seeing this as early as 3, but I think around 4 o'clock, I say it's safe to say this evening, 6 to 7, you might want to just not be too far away from home, because we are going to expect to see those storms move through the Houston area later on this afternoon. And of course, this is being 100% transparent on our forecast process and what we're looking at for the rest of today, and just to kind of give you and justify that you still need to be weather aware here across Houston. It's the reason why we're still continuing to keep that weather impact alert in place for Houston and for us here across our area for today, especially as we head into the rest of Saturday. So 7-day forecast, it's going to be much drier for Sunday. I think we're going to see more comfortable conditions for Sunday and Monday. We have another strong front arriving on Tuesday that will bring even cooler temperatures just in time for Halloween. So you're going to be able to plan those Halloween costumes accordingly if you're heading out trick-or-treating with the kids, because we're going to see those overnight lows dropping into the 50s and 40s. Finally, fall weather here across the Houston area. But still, weather impact alert, especially in place still for today, even though we are in this break of not active weather conditions, because we are expecting another additional round of storms later on this afternoon. And so definitely be on the lookout for that and have at least 2 or more ways to receive those weather alerts. And of course, we will be giving you the latest updates, especially as we progress through the day on KHOU.com and on the KHOU 11 app. Make sure to tune in later this afternoon to Chief Meteorologist David Paul. He will be in later on today giving you the latest updates as well. Have a good and safe rest of your day. Enjoy the next couple of hours, but I'd say, as early as 5, 6 p.m., you might want to just not be too far away from home because you don't want to be stranded out anywhere across Houston, especially as the sun is setting a bit sooner. So have a good rest of your weekend, and we will definitely come back here on KHOU 11 Plus to give you the latest updates on the weather conditions here across town. I'm meteorologist Chris Ramirez with your latest weather update.